Greetings, I am Makeda Solomon, and it is my absolute pleasure to be sharing today with none other than Ted Emanuel, our macrobiotic naturopathic physician, who is going to be sharing with us today all the news and information about the new wave of wellness that will be rising right here in the Caribbean. Ted, welcome.
This new wave has been in the making for several years. In macrobiotic way of life, exercise is important. Food understanding, food knowledge, food wisdom. It's all a part of that self, love, defense.
Right.
So that you carry this wherever you go, so people can feel there's a need. Well, there is a need.
For those that don't know you, Ted, and those that don't know what macrobiotics is all about, give us a little summary, if you could, please.
Okay. Macro is the fullness.
Okay.
Biotics is life. In Orthodox medicine, they talk about antibiotics. In macrobiotics, we talk about the fullness of life, seeing the body as a whole,
right,
and not as a part. So we don't do the symptomatic treatment.
You don't wait until the horse is bolted out of the stables. You make sure that the stables are in such a condition that the horse is not going to bolt.
Condition.
So,
So environment is important.
Yeah.
Internal as well as external.
Right.
So seeing disorders, diseases as a life-threatening thing. In macrobiotics, we're not frightened by disorders because they're just diseases, and we go and we seek the appropriate way
To bring back
to
harmony.
bring balance back into the organism, rather than using things, even food, certain things that we have here, eating and drinking, we ought not to be.
Right.
Because in other cultures, they use them freely because they have the understanding. Where these things are being brought to us without much understanding about selection, preparation, consumption.
And I think you've hit on a major point here,
Yes.
the fact that a lot of persons, especially in recent times, they've been clutching at anything that they can find. They find that they're feeling a bit uneasy and they're wondering, what could this be? And they're hearing and reading, and they're being bombarded with so much information as it relates to what is healthful. So that's why you're finding the piecemeal. How can that be sort of curbed and macrobiotics applied in a way that's going to bring about that balance and harmony?
Okay, so again, education.
Absolutely.
Hence, why the school? We've got to build the macrobiotic center to start to teach the children.
Right.
But it doesn't stay with the children because they're now.
Yes.
What happens to yesterday and yesteryear with the parents,
Okay.
mother and father, understanding the rules, the laws of nature, certain things that should be cooked or not cooked. If you're cooking something, you must know how long, based on what you're cooking it or preparing it to do.
So that those that have sort of gone before and have sort of succumbed to this ease because of the lack of knowledge, what you're saying is that the children, being able to start now and educating the children is a matter of course, because I think any nation that invests in the passing on knowledge to children that are going to, help to sustain them health-wise, has to be a nation that is investing in its natural resources, its people.
Exactly.
So starting with the children, the school, tell us about what that mission is really about.
Well, the purpose of the school is to take our children away from confusion. Everybody has his own way of preparing their native dish. Right? In Bangladesh, they prepare certain things or corn a certain way. In Japan, they prepare corn a different way. Okay? In Jamaica, we like roast corn. It's a different energy when you put corn on charcoal to burn.
Yes.
What it does to the blood differently to when you are eating it either raw, steamed, boiled, or whatever you're doing it.
It has a different effect on the
blood system,
okay.
which they influence. The blood system is going to influence the cells, not just the body fluids, red and white blood cells and lymph, but it's going to influence all the organs and related glands. And what that does, it creates confusion. Now, who would want to eat pepper pot? You know? Well, in Antigua, pepper pot is a delicacy. If a home in Antigua doesn't have a cornmeal with pepper pot, right?
Then I said,
in a week or 2 days in a week or 3,
something's wrong.
Something is wrong.
Yeah.
Breadfruit is a big thing in Jamaica. Breadfruit with ackee and saltfish. We had some there just the other day. Even though people think I don't eat breadfruit, people think I don't eat saltfish, people think I don't eat ackee. Well, why should I not eat them? They are food God created. But once we are preparing, selection is very important.
As you hit on that point of the things that you eat and not eat, I know a lot of persons, as soon as they think that there's a specific program, a dietary program that you'll be placed on, that it's going to be just bland and don't have enough flavor and don't have enough taste and all of these things.
Yes.
So what we're saying is that rather than eating just to please the palate based on what stimulates,
or what the population is having,
or what
your parents taught you.
Exactly.
Because your parents fed you.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that your mother and father, they know about preparing these things appropriately.
It's inherited.
So, exactly. I don't call it a genetic thing.
Tradition, rather.
It's a tradition. It's family or parental influence.
Yes. And then societal.
And societal influence. And then there's the trend. Preparing it a particular way because that's the way they do it downtown, or that's the way they do it midtown, or that's the way they do it uptown.
So the follow fashion thing as well. You have to name brand food.
Exactly. And here comes the new confusion. It's called vegan.
Okay.
And vegan, the name doesn't mean that the person preparing the meal, the vegan meal, understand what balance is. So 99.999% of all the people I know preparing vegan, I'm not knocking vegan folks, because it's probably one of the better ways to go with understanding. As far as selection, preparation, consumption, when are you eating certain things? Because if you eat something ackee saltfish and breadfruit in the morning. It's different than when you eat it for lunch. It affects the blood differently.
Wow.
It affects the blood differently in the afternoon, depends on how late. And when are you going to bed? Some people eat those things and go to bed.
Right.
Either immediately after, you've done it, I've done it.
Yes.
So tired but hungry at the same time, go and eat up everything, and then next thing,
Can't sleep.
you know what takes in, and then you
Understood.
go and lie down and go in that horizontal position.
Yes.
That's a position for storage,
Yes.
to store undigested food and liquids.
So what then happens to that, Ted? Just so people know, for instance, why the eating late at night thing is not a good idea.
Well, and it's very important that, especially both male, female, because it attacks the reproductive organs. It attacks the ovaries in a woman. It attacks the testes in a man. It attacks the prostate gland. Okay? That's why you're having such big problems in our Caribbean, in our African places, because people are not getting the proper or the right information of harmonization. So who am I giving breadfruit to? Just pick out the breadfruit first of all.
Right.
Is the breadfruit being cooked, roasted, boiled, fried, right? Or eaten raw? So, who are you feeding this to? So if your blood is already overly acidic with fatty acids, including soft drinks, sodas, fruits, fruit juices, those are acidic things.
Okay.
They convert and they are stored in the liver and then shuttled out to the periphery, the skin, the sebaceous glands, and also under the skin you have adipose tissues. So adipose tissues, not a good thing because they block off circulation. So hair starts to fall out, and you can't figure out why. Because there's blockage, either in the water glands, the sudoriferous glands, or excessive oil, sebum, protein, in the sebaceous glands, right? If it can get there, or it stays underneath and stays within the body, creating all kinds of disorders.
Yes.
That's just the breadfruit being fried
Yes.
in oil,
Understand.
right?
So all of the things that we're eating that are not beneficial to our particular and unique health situation, the body will show you the signs. There are always telltale signs. How are you able to spot and see what is going off balance with an individual?
Exactly. God gave us vision to see. The skin is the greatest, most valuable, and largest organ on the entire human body. It's like a blanket. That blanket has to be washed, has to be clean at all times. So it is able to make the types of adjustments. The skin is adaptable and it is very adjustable. So it warns us when we're going into a cold place or a hot place, right? You see that we're sweating now because the studio is warm, it's hot outside, okay? Even though we have a cooling system, obviously it's not enough because the organism is carrying around heat material in it that would create heat. Oil does that. Oil carries heat. Water is a cooling agent, but sometimes if the water is not going out, all that uric acid it creates also its own level of heat. Now, what happens there, though, once you create that type of heavy-handed, oily greasiness, the receptors in the skin cannot pick up the frequency of the heat or the cold.
Okay.
Or when someone touches you. When someone touches you, you're supposed to feel it before they even put their hands on you.
Okay.
Like you're sitting there, feel you.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
that sensitive.
Energetically, right.
Exactly. So if we are not careful, we overburden the organism with all these things, excess,
Right.
things, right? Because it's not everybody, it affects the same way.
Right.
But if you're in that zone of storage zone, storage is what's killing people. Storage is where disease starts. Diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, yes, cardiovascular problems, digestive problems, right? Cancer, leukemia, which is cancer also, anemia. Anemia is one of the biggest problems we have, but they don't talk about these things, and it's not that you're not eating, you're eating excessively and you are hoarding, you are storing, and the organism is not discharging.
So it's stagnating within you, basically, yes?
It's stagnating, but at the same time, degeneration would start because the blood being corrupted for this long period, right? Then you can't get out of that unless you do a systematic approach and not a quick fix diet.
Understood.
So the diet thing and the vegan thing and this thing, without understanding that woman's womb will never be right. My job, you asked about it,
How you say
my job is to defend
yes.
the womb of our women. Not just the testicles of the men, not just the prostate gland, but the womb is where life is created.
Absolutely.
That woman is the key
So the
to
quality,
our future.
the quality of the womb of our women is key to the future of our country. Remember the saying, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world? How do we get the mothers, the women, to be taking care of their womb and then also sending their children to get this education, which is going to assist their longevity?
Good question. Better understanding. Trust. Self. Trust me. Not just them. Whoever the thems are. Are you with me?
Right.
Trust yourself. Trust God. Because He's key.
Right.
Trust the messengers that God sent. Trust Jesus Christ. Trust Bob Marley. Bob Marley gave Jamaica the biggest message. Your belly full,
But you're hungry.
but you're still hungry.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway from all of Bob's meal.
And it's much, yeah, there's much
Amen.
there. Yes,
Awesome words.
yes.
Your belly full, but you're still hungry. So anemia needs to be addressed because that's where almost all your sickness comes from. Blockage,
Wow.
storage, not excreting, not perspiring enough. or perspiring too much of one thing and not enough of the other. So you create an imbalance within the blood system.
Right.
That is the type of things that we ought to be teaching in our schools.
Because just to say that, what flashed in my mind when you talk about elimination is that, you know, my mother and generations before her, you know, the standard clean out, wash out that you get each summer before you go back to school, the importance of elimination was known then. How have we lost that? Because I've spoken to folk before and they'll be saying, oh, they're having these symptoms, headaches, this one, and I'm saying, you know, when last did you go to the bathroom? About 4 days ago. No, but they've not been to the bathroom. So I'm saying, well, how do you account for what you've been intaking? Where is it? So that's where you're saying that
exactly.
It shows itself.
So the womb cannot seek balance if nothing is upstairs. So digestive disorders or diseases must be the key to the womb. Selection, preparation, make sure that these things are on target with each other. It's not every man you see that you're attracted to. And if you are attracted to that person, it's just the attraction. How far you take it is up to you and how you are communicating energy-wise. You might like the person, but just to like them, what's wrong with that? I like a million people, you know? But I have love for everyone different than the likes. So I'm putting my soul into it. When you talk about the soul now, you can't just not eat for your soul to be right. So mind-body connection is important, that we teach our women that the womb being developed is not just a pregnancy. It's the biggest gift a woman could ever have, because only she can create.
Right. But the woman has to be in the right frame of mind.
That's the point.
Yes.
Here comes education.
Right.
Here comes trust.
Yes.
Here comes trust. I remember one time people said, oh, yeah, man, that's just food. Food can't do it. That's a bunch of foolishness. That's what some medical doctors used to tell their customers when they talk about it. You've been to Telemani? Have you heard about that? Oh, well, that's a bunch of foolishness. And that's fair, because they too are anemic. You know, they too are having the problem.
People can only behave based upon their condition, according to their condition. Yeah.
Exactly. So my job here, or the macrobiotic way, is to seek balance. Just simple. It is quite varied. It's for everybody. Macrobiotic is, because it's tailored to the individual's need. That's why in my work, I have the same program. People say, man, he give the same brown rice to people. Folks, scientifically and otherwise, proven. And from headache to the worst kind of cancer, or some of the worst kinds of cancer that you have on this planet, I have never eradicated or bring balance into the human organism with so-called cancer running away that didn't get help. Every person, every disorder that I have ever assisted anyone with and be successful, brown rice is always there. But who's cooking the rice? How often is the rice being used? Right? You can fix rice in so many ways. But again, if you are trying to get rid of a disease, you have to handle it with care and understanding. Because you might try to discharge a disease, a sickness, too rapidly, and create a strain on the organism. So who's the doctor telling you what to eat and what to drink? Be it a naturopath or a so-called nutritionist. If you don't have that fullness of life in mind, then you're doing what they call guesswork.
It's almost like Russian roulette. It's like
Russian.
hit and miss.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you might end up hurting the patient by far more than helping them. That happens even in orthodox medicine, where they're over-medicating people with antibiotics or with aspirins or whatever drugs they use, or hard drugs or chemotherapy or radiation that they're putting in. Understanding starts in the womb. If you don't understand, then that womb is going to be developed, not understanding, not knowing. That's why people can say you're good looking, or you're not good looking, you're too short, or your arms too long, those types of things. Those are abnormalities, but came from the blood, coming from the blood system.
Of the mother.
Of the mother, not father. So when they use the word genetics, they're talking about learnt behavior, because mother is cooking more times than not to please the father. So here she is eating father's food. Baby is eating what father eats. So again, the food is going to dictate to the blood what your baby is going to look like.
Wow, the quality of the...
So it's not the genetic makeup of the father, is that every day, morning, noon, and night, eating daddy's food and feeding that embryo. We are what we eat and drink. It's very important when you speak about change, diet, so forth, that you make up your mind that it's what you want to do, so you're not just rushed into some fad, and then after a while it didn't work for you and you just badmouth it. We have to change that.
Yes, it really is. It's a minefield of information, and it just shows how right about now, there's no sooner place to start than right now. Because if the progression of our nation, the progression of our people, the development of our people is all based upon how we feed ourselves, how we nourish our bodies, the starting point is with us, the women, bottom line.
Bottom line.
And how we care for our wombs will determine our offspring, the quality of our offspring, and what they bring to this nation. So, Ted, thank you so much. It's always a joy sharing with you and hearing what you have to share. Let's do this. Let's take the new wave of wellness in the Caribbean right the way around the Caribbean, because people are ready for this. It's time to take our health back.
Thank you. Thank you.